Hello, everybody. Oh, it is wonderful to see such a great turnout, and I'm not the least bit surprised. Um, and I apologize for this wait, and thank you very, very much. We have been we've been working out the filming of this. It will be filmed, and it will show on Albany's channel, which is it's the station I find it on is 33. It's KALB. And it will also be available on the internet through the library's link, which I also include in the announcements. So you can find that and many previous readings there. Okay, first of all, as always, I want to thank Friends of the Albany Library. They really make this possible, and it's it's just wonderful, the work of volunteers that helps us continue to keep this poetry series going. My name is Catherine Taylor. I know many of you out in the audience. It's just so nice to see everybody. Both Adam David Miller and Al Young have read here in the past. It's been a few years since we've welcomed either one of them, and it's really a thrill to have the two of them together. It's very, very special. In reading a little bit more about recent work and then going back, I've just was astounded at the range of both of these men in terms of experiences in theater and art and politically and musically, and a lot of it is, of course, quite evident in the poetry, this wonderful breadth and depth of experience. So what I'm going to do here is introduce Al Young, and he is going to introduce Adam for us tonight. I think most of you are here because you know quite well that these two poets have done beautiful work and are contributing to our community in many, many different ways and beyond the community. As I mentioned, the range of styles and genres and all of that is just astonishing in both cases. And Al Young certainly is actively pursuing most everything that has interested him for a very long time. He's received 2 American Book Awards for books, one book of poetry and 1 musical memoir. He was our Poet Laureate of California from 2005 to 2008, and he has a new book coming out very soon, Offline Love, so we will be looking for that. And it is, I know it's just a great pleasure to introduce Al Young.
Thank you. What was that? It's such a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I always remind people that this is not a monologue. I teach part-time anyway at California College of the Arts, and I have to remind my MFA in writing graduate students over there that audience is superbly important. You can languish in Masters of Fine Arts programs and what's still called creative writing and never hear anyone talk about audience. And so many of my students just presume that the audience for their work are other MFA creative writing grad students and or teachers. And when you read the literary magazines, it reads that way. The general public doesn't stand a chance. Boom, 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 boom. Let me get the key. Boom, 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 boom. Do, dee, da, da, do, da. I don't want you, but I need you. Don't wanna kiss you, but I need to, though. You treat me badly. I love you madly. You really got a hold on me. You know your part. You really got a hold on me. Baby, I love you, and all I want you to do is just hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me. Boom, 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 boom. Tighter. That's the message of about 75% of literature. Doo-wop, the moves. Let's make no bones about it, whatever this means or ever meant to you. Darling, you know your way through what I'm about to say. Doo-wop still steals the moment. This sizzling thrill of closeness, the slowness of our touch, too much, too messy to process. Back when dawn rose off the river, we'd feel it. Feel felt like enough when flowering was new and not easy to handle. Neither was breathing. All that light funneling in from Canada ferried over the river while you put a move on my heart. Heart and soul, flesh and bone, doo-wop was known to sabotage. All across the land, white citizens' councils shouted and warned, Negro music is corrupting white youth. Boycott Negro music. We were young too. You pressed your hand behind my neck. You kissed my mouth. Wham! So who'd kissed whom? You still wonder? In one slow move, you slithered and drizzled snail trails all up and down eroded maps of me. Doo-wop, stone slow of step, sticks to you, lasts. The doo-wop mind cries, oh, baby, you know I love you. Always thinking of you. I place no one above you, and you know I'll never snub you. Under doo-wop's spell, you make no bones. You shake your perfume booty, you go for keeps. Thank you. In 2005, I think it was 2005, might have been 2006, Laura Bush. Well, let's do it another way. Let's approach this from another. Let's do this from another angle. Dana Gioia, whom I've known since he was a graduate student at Stanford, in the early 1970s when I started teaching there, and when everyone was wearing bell bottoms and dashikis and ankhs and all of that kind of stuff, Dana Gioia, who is a Republican, was wearing jackets and ties and letting everybody know that he was going to take the Wallace Stevens route, that he didn't want to teach in a college. And that's what he did. He worked for General Foods and worked his way up to becoming vice president of the Birdseye division, then retired at 50 and returned to poetry. And we're good friends, even though we don't see eye to eye on a lot of political matters. But he called me up when he was going off to Washington, D.C. to take on the role of directing the National Endowment for the Arts Literature Program. He says, hi, Al, this is Dana. I said, yeah. It was at night, it was like 9 o'clock at night, and it was a strange call to get. He says, here in D.C., I want to give the President and First Lady a chance to have hands-on experience with writers. And to this extent, I'm arranging a series of dinners. And I said, so what's up? He says, well, something tells me that you're not particularly eager to meet George Bush and his wife. I said, your instincts are correct, Dana. He says, that's why I'm testing the waters first. But shortly after that, Laura Bush invited me to come to the National Book Festival. which has been was a very successful venue that she brought with her to D.C. from Texas. I mean, just thousands and thousands of people for one day, one Saturday, just filled Washington, D.C. So I read this poem, and it received polite applause. But that night at the party in Georgetown, nobody would talk to me. So I took a taxi home after a while. Sundays and Democracies, it's called. It goes way, way back in my life. About, 50-something years ago, 55 years ago. I was co-editing Generation, the University of Michigan's Inter-Arts magazine is how we build it, with a woman named Ann Doniger. It was during the period when the new criticism was holding forth, Mr. T.S. Eliot and so forth. And the message that we got in literature classes was that if you could understand a poem, it couldn't be too good, So everybody was trying to write crazy, and cryptically. So a guy named Peter Zimmels submitted this poem to the magazine called Sundays and Democracies. And we didn't understand it, and so we thought it must have something going. So we published it. But a half century later, I was looking at that poem and saying, I wonder what Peter was driving at. But that Peter later became a Buddhist monk in Cambodia, and then he left that and became a songwriter for the Grateful Dead. In fact, when you read Grateful Dead biographies, he's the one that they call Monk, the monk. But I decided always loved the title. And so I just took the title, borrowed the title, and wrote my own poem and dedicated it to Peter Zimmels. And it's, form-wise, it's 3 interlinking sonnets, but you shouldn't be able to hear that or be burdened by that. Sundays and Democracies for Peter Zimmels. Republicans, you're poor because you're ignorant of all the laws our Congress passed to cut the cost of schooling children who get tossed, nay, dumped upon society. While we do view with piety the right to life, we draw the line. Clean up your act. To woo or whine the loser class does not make sense. Let's get this straight. We never winced at taking public time to quarrel with victims, thugs, the huge immoral segment of the population in our great, God-blessed, rich, free nation. The Democrats. There was a time the GOP and all its crime got barely covered by the news, which only aired our sins and blues. What have they done for you, my friends? Is making do or making ends meet any measure of success? We back the same big business mess they do. But when we tighten your belt, we dig up Franklin Roosevelt. You've given us prosperity. We've given you prosperity without their stark severity. The only thing we have to fear? Republicans. Now, is that clear? A citizen, more parties please, more Sundays and Democracies. Each party dances, each side sings, one big bird with 2 right wings. They'll boogie with you in the streets, then drag you down to dark defeats. Democracy? Look at our heroes. CEOs billions, labor's zeros. Pure DNA, unspliced and spliced. If you think oil is overpriced, consider what we're going to pay for giving frequencies away. The broadcast ban. I say, let's vote. Let's kick some butt. Let's rock some boat. That was the poem. Quite suddenly, it seems, we lost a really wonderful poet native to Southern California. She was born in Watts. And this is Wanda Coleman, who was just, we're all unique. But she was unique in a unique kind of way. Wanda had a laugh that never ended. I mean, when she started laughing at something, it might go on for 20 minutes, and you had no idea what was going on there. But when people ask her what part of the country she came from when she was outside California, she said, "I live in the deep West." This is in memory of Wanda Coleman, living in the deep West. In memory of Wanda Coleman, 1946, 2013. SoCal and what you called the deep West keel over without you and your defiant signifying. You skipped right over absinthe, opium, mescaline, LSD, heroin, orgy, and weed to reach the zone. You wrote Days of Our Lives. You won an Emmy. You slid into the zone on slippery bars of soap opera. All choruses, no breaks, just one long Jess Grew coda. That wasn't a dramatic pause. I lost my place there. Just one long Jess Grew coda, 20 volumes long. In code and flat-out truth, you logged L.A. behavior hot to cold. In Arrow Song, you sexified her landscape's dips and swells, her heavens and hells, anything but quiet or quaint. Your pictures, in wall-painted language, sliced between canyons and summits and ridges, stick to the ribs and to the heart, half free or caged. Concrete streets and freeways couldn't always go the distance or reach the intimacy you loved. What was a Watts-born woman to do but learn to boogaloo or sail the desert or walk the sea? She's got about 20 books out. 10 of them were done by Black Sparrow, a press that was subsidized by the writing of Charles Bukowski. I'm just going into this arbitrarily here and hoping I can find the second page of a particular poem. All right, I'll read the alternate take first. As Catherine announced, I have a new book called Offline Love, not yet out. And I played around with the title for a long time. Love Offline or Offline Love. You know, poets are like this, just tedious. Here's the alternate take. No IP address, no data collected, no likes or dislikes, no wall, no tweet, no tablet, no Android, no IP address, no terminal, nothing. No demon mailers, no netbook, no notebook, no laptop, no desktop, no USB port, no Wi-Fi, no new updates waiting, no error 404, no fishing expedition, no cookies, no firewall, no worms, no malware, no viruses, no spam, no way to block my love for you this time around, you gorgeous recipient and giver of love, who eludes even the politics of poetry with panache. Kiss me in the here and now. Let's do stuff with one another that make our closest friends squint in disbelief. You love me, and I love you so warmly, so coolly, that minus us, the world unknown and known falls short, unfinished, hacked. Come on, luck be with me. Oh, it's on the other side. Okay, got it. I just came a month on the road, Black History Month, and I like to quote Quincy Troop, who said, if it's February, it's Black History Month, and you're a black poet, and you don't have no gigs, you ain't nothing. Eddie Cleanhead Vincent was a wonderful saxophonist and blues singer. He played bebop saxophone, and he sang, the real rhythm and blues type blues, and he was excellent in each idiom. And he sang this. It's one of his songs called Person to Person Blues. Don't send me no message. I can't hug no telephone. I need you person to person. Bring your big fine foxy cell phone home. Offline love. You say digital. I say fingers, toes. You say keystrokes. I sing slyly, different strokes for different folks. Bob Dylan to Thelonious Monk. I play folk music up the street. Monk to Dylan. We all play folk music, son. Hey, not so fast. Don't play me. Why text me? Why phone me only when you know it's safe I won't pick up? You'll get my outgoing voicemail greeting. Enough for one as shy and slick as you. Don't say anything you can wink. Don't wink anything you can grin. Don't grin anything you can roll your eyes real mean to mean. You rush up into places you can't take. Can't take you nowhere. You don't clutch your smartphone, iPad, time-charred Kindle. Fire. Smoked remnants of the soul in flight. One earthquake. That's all it takes to topple touchy-feely cell towers poised like ghosts beyond crude payphone carcasses, yanked and trucked while yet still supple in a pinch. You didn't know apps from Apple or Adam's Offox. You came to me all hips and bee-stung lips. Your eyes weren't mirror screens. They gobbled light. The only mouse you knew was cat and mouse. In daytime, you would program Meals on Wheels to feed the poor and elderly. In real time, night or day, you fed the love surrounding us. Offline love works just like this. You merge, you melt, you run around, you pity yourself as you spin in space at 1,000 aching mph. You rush right in. The run-up lasts forever. And I've got a poem in my back pocket that I'll end with. It's in my back pocket because I wanted to read it and I didn't have a copy of it, so I rushed home from San Francisco this evening and printed it out very quickly. And you can tell I'm an authentic poet when I do stuff like this. I'm of a vintage that remembers the March on Washington before the March on Washington. That is, iconicized as the 1963, August 1963, I Have a Dream March on Washington. But there were other marches on Washington that preceded that. I always think of George Carlin, language maven. When you're sitting at the airport, you hear the term, we'll begin pre-boarding in a minute. And Carlin always wanted to know, pre-boarding, is that where we practice getting on the plane? Or is that where, that kind of thing. So there's a prehistory to everything. And the year here is 1959, I think it is. And rather spontaneously, about half a dozen of us just got in an old car and drove from Ann Arbor to Washington, D.C., and just jumped right into the middle of things. And at one point, we almost all died at the hands of some mounted policemen who wanted to kill us. And what saved us is in this poem here. I wrote this poem for Harry Belafonte, and I gave it to him, and he actually cried. He said, nobody's ever written a poem for me before. Belafonte for Beginners. Now, I'm presuming that most of you know one of his iconic things. Deo, Deo, day delight on me want go home. Deo, Deo, come delight on me want go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come, you got it. Belafonte for Beginners. 3 years before I Have a Dream got preached, the 1960 March on Washington propelled us into D.C. Once we reached the Saturday when you were going on, mean horseback cops reared up to stomp us. Stop, one hollered in a trembling southern drawl. Let them kids live. We thanked this rebel cop with guts size. Then we cut straight for the mall. You, Harry Belafonte, sang our songs. You let us know you came down on our side. Green college kids, we knew what rights, what wrongs forced us to see you, hear you, while we died. No caving in, no turning back, just home. Calypso? All we heard was daylight come. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Adam David Miller, we go back so far, I can't even remember when we first met, but believe me, it was before many of you in this room were born. He was someone to be admired. For me, he was just an all-purpose intellectual. He could write poetry. He could do critiques. He had a radio program on KPFA where he held forth regularly. That I used to listen to him, and I used to listen to Kenneth Rexroth and Alan Watts. All those guys were on the air around the same time when I first came out here in 1960, that same year. He has left the world many, many treasures, bequeathed the world, I should say. His latest books that I'm excited about, one is called The Sky is a Page. And, you know, every time I find myself looking up at the sky now, that line comes in. I'm looking at this page. And that's what poets do. They're always subversive because they give you some language that by which you can rejuvenate your seeing or your feeling or your living or your loving. Ticket to Exile is his autobiography, volume 1 of his autobiography, which reads like a Chester Himes thriller. I don't know if you know the African-American writer Chester Himes, but you should. He had these two detectives named Coffin Ed Jones and Gravedigger, and they're Harlem detectives who will stop at nothing to solve a crime, even sometimes when one of their family members has committed the crime. But his story is about having to leave his native North Carolina, and it is just a beautiful piece of prose storytelling, published by Heyday Books, and I recommend it passionately. He has helped an awful lot of writers, younger and older. Sometimes as an anthologist, he published around 1970, I believe it was, a volume called Dices or Black Bones, in which he introduced the poetry of such people as Victor Hernandez Cruz, David Henderson, Ishmael Reed, Cañas. Al Young was in there somewhere. And he maintains a publishing company that he has directed for about 25 years, is what his wife Elise tells me. Eshu House. And you should look them up sometimes, ESHU. And you'll see what I mean about how it's really exotic at a time when we think we've got the goods on everything exotic. He's always looking for something that's fresh and something that's new and something that's socially viable as well. In his own quiet way, he has been one of the most inspiring and radical of literary voices for the last several decades, and we're very fortunate to have him here. It was James Baldwin who said that The purpose of all art is to lay bare the questions which have been hidden by the answers. I think the purpose of African American writers is to destroy America. That is the America that is hypocritical and that is unjust, to make a better America, the America that America professes to be. And certainly Adam David Miller, in his way, has contributed to this destruction. So, it is a great honor to introduce Adam David Miller. Putting this over here so that you can put your water and anything else you have.
By various and sundries.
Yes. There's no level surface up there.
No, I was listening to Al talking, talking away and saying stuff. And then I realized that, that he's talking about me. So I had to come back into the room. No, Al and I go a long way back. I was fortunate to meet him when he first came here. And so we swapped things back and forth. What I'd like to do tonight is to read a couple little poems and then read a section from longer piece that I've been writing called Fall Rising. See. Tide flowing. Can you hear me back there okay? Pamela? Okay. On that beach we walked, those days, in those dunes we lay, light bouncing from sand, where fancy ruled, where dreams, fairy or real, spun through the grasses, entwined us in their incredible magic as the tide flowed in. How long ago that dream time? A month, a year, or more? It is all ensnarled in the brash, brutish, uncompromising seaweed of now, the sob and suck as the tide flows out. And this one is called The Eye, Behind the Eye. From here, I can go anywhere. Anchored to this desk, I see 3 narcissus in a slender pewter vase. On the floor by my feet is my black bag with its white clown faces. Empty now of my teaching tricks, it sags. French doors open out to campus, past trees, buildings, the town, out across the land, then up, past clouds, up, out to the universe, planets, stars, galaxies, black holes. Then I return to see again the desk. A highly glazed fat cup holds pins that free my imagination to soar, to soar. This office call is taken from a longer piece called Fall Rising. It's a very big piece about taken from my life at one time or another, and it will be coming out, I imagine, one of these days. It's on a publisher's desk. But this is called a little bit from Office Call. But why were you talking to that girl? Why was I talking to that girl? Or any girl, for that matter? What was it to him? First of all, how did he know? Why would anyone care enough to tell him? Which girl, sir? Which girl? That one you were talking to in the library? It hit me. You mean that girl I was talking with in the library stacks, whose name I didn't get? That upset an awful lot of people. The librarian called her house mother. House mother called me. They were very upset. I had left the girl in the library. Apparently, a lot of other people had not. Now that I knew why I had been summoned for this meeting, why the commander's voice had been so tight on the phone. When his voice was tight, it moved to a higher register. Miller, see me in my office after your last class today. Aye, aye, sir. My last class, my worst. Physics 1A lab, ended at 4. Since he had called at 9, I had all day to speculate on why he wanted to see me. Was it about my grades? We were in the 3rd month of a 4-month term. My midterm grades would make a 2-hump pyramid. 2 A's, 1 B, 1 C, 2 D's, and an F. Unless I pulled up the lower grades, I was in danger of flunking out and being shipped back to the Pacific Fleet. My grades were not low from any lack of effort on my part. I bet I spent more hours in my books than any member of our unit. I had to. I had further to go than the bright, recent graduates of the best Northwest high schools, and those of us from the Pacific Fleet who'd come from high schools that had prepared them for college. My all-black, segregated, southern small-town high school had not prepared me for the school that boasted its graduates matriculated at Oxford and Cambridge. Mere names to me, but sounded intimidating. My school had no library, no laboratory for physics or chemistry, no field trips, no foreign language. Beginning Latin, taught in elementary school years earlier, had been eliminated. What I remembered from one term of algebra was x times x equals x to the second. That had been drilled into me by an instructor who taught by rote. I remembered that x times x equals x squared, but I don't remember why. We were fortunate in having 2 excellent teachers in English and history, both subjects in which I excelled. Because of my grounding in these subjects and the fact that Navy placement tests favored those with verbal skills, I was able to qualify first for petty officer training, then for training at this V-12 unit at Whitman College, located in eastern Washington state. If not grades, then what? I'd been careful of my conduct. As the only black on campus, I rightfully felt that I would be under a microscope. Except for my 2 suite mates, I had not complained when I'd been denied entrance to cafes and restaurants in Walla Walla after a Southern white liaison officer, told townsfolk not to serve his black troops, who had recently been brought to a local army base from a base in Alabama. They weren't used to it, he explained to the townfolk. Yeah? The unit was en route to the South Pacific to take part in our war against Japan. Prior to this colonel's instruction, I joined my mates for afternoon cookies and tea without an incident. Not to protest racial discrimination, no matter how it was directed or at whom was not like me. When I was 19, working as a busboy at a restaurant in New York City, while waiting to be called up into the Navy, I quit because the owner refused to serve a black office worker who had been brought in by her fellow workers for lunch. The second time she had refused to serve a prospective black patron. Fresh up from the segregated South, I had let her slide after the first offense. After the next time, I quit. And I'd gone with a mate to see the section base commander in San Diego, when Southern white sailors had insisted on segregated eating in the mess hall. Why my timidity here? I was in a situation over which I felt I had absolutely no control. I could and did quit the restaurant. In San Diego, I had all of the black sailors at the section base with me, and the commander knew it. Not so here. At Whitman, I was fighting for my academic life with no guarantee that I would be able to learn enough in time to save it. Some things were becoming less obscure. I had a math tutor, a retired former Whitman instructor, at whose house for a modest sum I spent afternoons learning how not to divide by zero. But I could not visualize the walls and spaces represented by the firm and dotted lines of my mechanical drawing class. And my chemistry laboratory partner was the son of an Idaho potato farmer. He balked at helping me with experiments and went about campus bragging about my ignorance. I was being denied a normal social life for reasons which had nothing, yet everything to do with me, but which I could control only by disappearing, a thought that never entered my mind. There was no way I was going to let them send me back to the Pacific Fleet. My black mates at the San Diego section base were betting for and against me. With a mixture of pride and envy, they wanted me to succeed, but were certain the chance was against my doing so. Bring your black butt back here with no gold bars, and yours is mine. That from my buddies from the section base who had tried to teach me algebra. Only 3 of us had made it past the VTREV entrance test for officer training. As one of the 3, I was a standard bearer. I was expected to succeed, to pave the way for others. While I saw the training as an additional way into college, which I'd begun to attend through University of California extension courses, I was well aware of their expectations. I was not to fail. No way. So here I was, shifting my weight imperceptibly from one foot to another to shield my discomfort. He'd not said I could sit, nor had he given the at-ease command. Trying to make sense out of what to me was nonsense. I had been exiled from my hometown for writing a white girl a 7-word note, a 7-word note. I would like to know you better. For what my white townspeople regarded as a gross violation of the racial code, hence a threat to the social order, the sheriff and police chief charged me with attempted rape. I stood there as now, as they stated the charge. That was March 1942 in Orangeburg, South Carolina. This was April 1944 in Walla Walla, Washington. But the charge was identical: personal contact with a white girl, and the structure of power making this charge was as absolute as the one in Orangeburg, and I was equally as powerless to refute it. At 4 o'clock, it was too early to turn on lights, but the sun had moved west, casting parts of the office into shadow. During my dressing down, Commander Park's face grew strong or weak as the light shifted. I was listening with part of my mind, but snapped to full attention when he started to tell the story of this Mexican boy at the school where I was principal before I got my commission. I was principal of a school in New Mexico. This Mexican boy thought he could date white girls. He had to go. He paused to let this soak in. I have a girlfriend at home, sir. I have no intention of dating white girls, hair, or any girls. Well, I don't want any more reports of you talking to them. Understand? Yes, sir. The light and shadow were distorting his face. Dismissed. Aye, aye, sir. I saluted sharply, did an about face, and left. So that's a little bit from Office Call. So let the open roll. This, by the way, is the best open reading in the Bay Area. So you all have contributed to make it that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Thank you, both of you. And I'm very glad that this will be taped and available to the larger community. This is just, your writing is a treasure, and I thank you so much. It's just an honor to have you here at Albany Library tonight. And I think what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute break, just enough for people to, take care of business. And I think, we have brownies at the back, and books should be on display or will be. And then we'll start the open mic. All right, thank you.